Now, an educational institute of AJC, Project Interchange has brought over 6,000 influential leaders from over 70 countries to Israel. Our next guest is not only their Director of International Communications and a media expert, but also the First Lady to the Consul General of Israel in Los Angeles. So please welcome Myra Clark-Siegel.
Hi to everybody, Bruchim Habayim to everybody. I want to talk to you a little bit today about Project Interchange. Project Interchange is an educational institute of AJC and has been for the last decade or so. But what I want to talk to you about today is specifically the nexus between the research that you've all had presented, not only here today, but basically for the past several years, and the practical on-the-ground experience that we've had taking worldwide leaders and decision makers from literally 5 continents and more than 70 countries to Israel. And we've done that for the past 30 years. Let's take a look, for example, however, about traditional pro-Israel activism or Hasbara. Our keyboard. This is the traditional keyboard that we're all familiar with. We use it on our computers, we use it on our smartphones. It started with the typewriter. It started with the typewriter because people wanted to slow down the speed at the way people typed. But the realization is that this is not intuitive. It doesn't work. This is traditional pro-Israel Hasbara. People throwing enough facts at the empty chair in the room and hoping that maybe one of those facts will stick. Kind of like the QWERTY keyboard. Or this one. And yes, I had this before David Sable's speech. Moses on high telling you because you're supposed to love Israel. Also not really working. So what do we do with Project Interchange? We use the GPS keyboard. The GPS keyboard is intuitive. It's relevant. You put in the address that you're looking for alphabetically. It makes sense because we're used to using the alphabet in a certain way when we're thinking about an address. You type it out according to how the letters appear in the address. That's the same way with Project Interchange. For the past year alone, Project Interchange took 24 delegations in the past year alone of leaders from all over the world, literally from 5 continents. We focus mostly on non-Jewish leaders. There are enough of you in this room and in organizations all over the world who take Jewish leaderships. Great. We are not about inventing the wheel. But as we all know, most of the leaders around this world are in fact not Jewish. That doesn't mean we exclude Jewish leaders. It just means that our focus has always been different. That means journalists from Scandinavia. That means Turkish journalists. That means Chinese academic leaders. That means university presidents, foreign ministers, ambassadors, deputy chiefs of mission from embassies, consuls general. It means university presidents, campus media leaders, and energy experts, and the list goes on and on. Now, I want to commend, in fact, the Brand Israel Group and all of the research, and I want to commend also Consul General Aharoni and the entire team, not only here in New York, but in fact, I've worked with Ido when he was in the Foreign Ministry in Israel on this very issue. What we believe at Project Interchange is that when it comes to understanding Israel, there is no substitute for firsthand experience, and we believe that strongly. The concept of throwing facts and figures at people just doesn't work. And we do that to today's most influential voices. Now, we're all familiar with the Israel as a house images. Look at France, beautiful, sunshine, flowers, Eiffel Tower. You look at Italy, the same thing. And then you look at Israel. Dark, foreboding. These are the concepts that you know from the research that was done. But the difference is that when Project Interchange approaches leaders to come with us to Israel for educational week-long intensive seminars, we don't ignore the headlines. We educate them through the headlines, but we also go beyond the headlines. They want to go with Project Interchange because they trust us, because we are not political. And we are the only organization that does what we do with leaders from all over the world. And they precisely trust to go with us because we are not political. In fact, because we're not afraid to show Israel's warts. Because we're not afraid to show that Israel is a complex place. If a leader says to us at the end of their week-long experience, you know, things are more complicated than I thought, that's great. Because they're looking at things and understanding things in a different perspective. So who are we talking about as these leaders? We are talking about Bollywood directors. You look at India and you talk about an opinion leader, you're not talking about a journalist, you're not talking about a government official, you are talking about Bollywood directors and producers. Last year we took Bollywood directors, we included having one of their films screened at the Israel Film Festival to a packed house of Israelis. We built a bilateral relationship that way. They scouted locations while they were in Israel, and they've already inked deals. We've taken journalists, Scandinavian journalists, Turkish journalists, American journalists, counterterror experts, university presidents, and we show them Israel in its entirety, across the entire political and social spectrum. It means HIV experts and public health experts from East Africa are meeting with their counterparts in Israel. It means that student media leaders who have a very influential voice on campus are meeting with expert journalists in Israel, which is the center of the journalism universe in the world. They're meeting with their counterparts, they're building relationships with them, and they're meeting and seeing Israel completely. I would wager that this, in fact, should be the symbol of Israel, not the sabra cactus fruit, the artichoke. If I handed you an artichoke and you had never seen one before, you wouldn't know what to do with it. But if I talked to you about how you could utilize an artichoke and you peel back the layers and show you all the different ways that you can use it, I'm making it relevant to you. And that's what we do with all of these opinion leaders and decision makers from around the world. And we show them Israel completely. So let me talk to you a little bit about some of our alumni and some of the impact. And this is, by the way, then you do move from that dark, foreboding picture to the sun shining, like in the other pictures of the house. You see the face of Israel, you see high tech, you see how Israel is relevant to them and making an impression, and they are connecting with it and using it. Some of our alumni: Associate Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Representative Gabby Giffords, who just stepped down from Congress from Arizona, mayors, state and elected officials, government officials, both from the socialist and the liberal parties in France. That meant when the attack, the horrible attack that took place in Toulouse in France, the French leaders had no relationship with the CRIF, with the French Jewish leadership, before the Project Interchange seminar. As a result of that, they built a very strong relationship. The first 2 phone calls they made after that horrific attack in Toulouse were then to the CRIF and to AJC because of the relationships that they build, and they sought guidance on how to act quickly and forcefully. Turkish journalists. Turkish journalists we brought before the Mavi Marmara, and I can promise you that they came with arms crossed and very, very negative body language. Within the first 2 days, their arms unfolded, their body language changed. They were meeting with officials in Israel, but they were also seeing Israel for themselves. And we give them the opportunity to do that for themselves. I'm going to quote from from a Turkish newspaper reporter who wrote a column in the Turkish newspaper. We have more in common with our Israeli neighbors than with our so-called Palestinian brothers. Then he got death threats. And then he said, I got death threats, and he wrote a follow-up article and said, I got death threats, but I will continue to write the truth about what I saw and learned in Israel. Then we had university presidents. Who here has ever heard of the Technion Cornell project, Super Science Center, being built here in Roosevelt Island in New York? David Skorton, the president of Cornell University, went on a Project Interchange seminar in 2009. He met with Peretz Levi, the president of Technion University during that seminar. The rest is history. KUD, we took a delegation of construction leaders to Israel. KUD, which is the largest construction company in the world, a Japanese construction company, they went to Ben Gurion University. They went to Beersheba. They looked out with the president, and then they said, what's going on here? And the president said, we want to develop it. This is the periphery. We want to develop the area here. You know what's happening? The face of the Negev is changing because KUD has a $2 billion project that they signed as a result of that trip to Israel through Project Interchange. I will go on, and I could, but I'm going to stop now. What I'm going to tell you is if you go to projectinterchange.org, I don't want you to read anything. I want you to watch 2 videos. I promise you no talking heads, and I promise you no voiceovers. Go to projectinterchange.org, watch Israel as a House, or better yet, watch the Rhythm of Israel video, because that's what people see as a result of their experience in Israel. They see, they hear, they feel, they taste the rhythm of Israel. And because we don't shy away from the topical issues as well, when those decision makers, the foreign ministers, the journalists, etc., have to make those decisions and write the articles, they have the information and the relationships and the contacts so that they can get accurate sources of information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.